that. So it would say, this is the start date, and this is broadly how long it's going to run. This is what sort of commitment we're expecting from you, and this is the number of platforms. And it kind of split almost right down the middle. Like the comments that I got on the blog was 50% saying, this is ridiculous because it's going to like ruin everything. And the other 50% said, this is a really good idea because one of the apprehensions I have about getting involved is I don't know how much commitment I'm going to need to put into this. It could be like a couple of days, or it could be 4 months. So I just wondered what your view was on that, and like maybe other people here, because it's not like you need to have it front and centre all the time, but there could be a place that people just go to. So if you're that type of player that you really prefer not to know, that's fine, you can avoid it. But if you'd prefer to know, and I think newbies, people that come into it for the first time, it kind of orientates them a little bit. And then once they cross over that, then you can go into the alternate reality bit. But just at that boundary, it feels to me like it's a kind of good orientation to get into something that's cool.
Well, ultimately, you're just describing a tool. And a tool is only as good as the person who uses it. I can see, maybe if we had such a tool and we were planning from it from the outset, we could have used it well, and it maybe would have helped people orient. But if someone is just like, I'll just throw something together and I'll kind of guess what it, that would actually probably hurt more than help. It really would depend on the puppet master or puppet master team, and how they built the game and how they invested in it. Like, it probably would have helped us, admittedly, because the acres of Google Docs that we built in terms of schedules and planned blog posts, and then of course we got to tweak these blog posts because the players have caused the story to go differently. It might have actually been nice, even just internally, just to have an UBS tool to be able to put that all together. Let alone showing players, yes, this is you can expect some number of Twitter accounts, some blogs, some websites, some dev jobs. But again, it all depends on how you would use it. And I can imagine even some puppet masters who would be good at using that tool, but for whatever reason, however they built their game, it wouldn't necessarily, because if you wanted to have some level of surprise, it's like, I'm going to have this surprise that all of a sudden we're going to do drops, we're going to do a couple dead drops at some point. Well, you just spoiled it in the tool. On the other hand, some people are like, I want to prepare people for that. We have to, we'll have to be up front and center about that. So again, it just depends on the team.
I wasn't thinking about the internal management. I was just thinking about a simple infographic.
And a simple infographic.
18 rated, and it's going to take 4 months. And it's going to certainly take up a lot of your time.
Well, and also, another problem with that, as we certainly discovered, and I'm sure every single ARG can attest to in some degree, is the plan of action is the first thing that goes out the window. We definitely had how long we thought our ARG was going to be, which had 2 major adjustments. And I think technically when push came to shove, we actually did end up adjusting it back to the original timeline. But at the same time, we could have said at the outset, we're going to do 4 months. Wait, no 2 months, no 3 months, no 3.5 months, no 7 months, no 2 months, And at that point, if you're changing it, if that ends up getting changed up that much, and I know we're certainly not any stranger to having to adjust the schedule and whatnot, then at that point that actually becomes a hindrance because they're looking at the tool and goes, wait a minute, we're on month 17, you said 5 months.
Now, I know you mentioned players game jacking and kind of going against the established story. Did you ever consider kind of embracing that and kind of folding those kind of alternative ways that the players were approaching the story kind of into the story as maybe kind of another faction or something like that, rather than just saying, no, what you're doing is wrong?
Well, the funny thing is in this case, we were actually slightly worried at first that Reality Ends was hacking us because we were going to do some of the stuff that Reality Ends was doing. It's just that we weren't going to do it in the precise way he was doing it. We weren't going to, and we were just like, someone just trying to, preempt the entire Cabal subplot on us? I don't know. So, certainly if Reality Ends had created something completely different from what we were doing, we would have chopped up things, analyzed it, and gone, why, maybe that'll be interesting. Maybe we can incorporate it. It's a little different in this case just because it's like, wow, that is interesting. We should know, we're thinking of it, we're going to introduce it in week 7. You know, at the same time, you know, we will admit that Reality Ends actually came up with some interesting stuff. Actually at the end, one of our final puzzles near the end was actually inspired by a puzzle that Reality Ends had done just as on a lark on the beginning, just to see what players would think. So we did take inspiration from what Reality did, and ultimately, you know, but we didn't actually change the plot in this case, just because the plot was already heading in that direction anyway.
Hi, so I have 2 questions, and the first one is likely very stupid, so I apologize in advance.
No stupid questions, only stupid people answering them.
So my question is with the word audience. My brain had a hard time with that because it's not sort of a traditional audience, right? So when you're building audience, you're not building your traditional audience. You want to build not just people coming to the game, but people actually playing the game as well. So I was wondering how you think about the word audience and what your audience is.
Okay, well, ultimately, the audience has different parts for an ARG, and actually any media does, you know. It can be a trap sometimes when you think of the ARG audience. You think of your dedicated players, and certainly they're the biggest focus. But it's the 80-20 thing, you know. Once again, you know, the 20% contributing 80% of the energy and fandom, and in this case, the work. But the thing is, you can't just focus on them. You know, you have to focus on your casual fans. You have to focus on the people who are interested and who might actually be talking on the side about it, but not actively participating. We certainly had several of those, quite a few of those as well. I got to read quite a bit of that because I was doing a bit of community management among my other tasks on the ARG. It was, you know, you can't neglect that, especially because, you know, more often than not, we're often doing promotions, and you know, when we're making ARGs, we're making promotions for various things. Like, part of it is that, you know, we were trying to help promote TV Tropes. We're promoting Echo Chamber. We were also doing promotion for an augmented reality app called LayR, because they were very nice and gave us plenty of funding. You know, even if they weren't necessarily participating, that audience was paying attention to that. They knew, you know, it's like, oh, the TV Tropes is evolved. Maybe I'll check out TV Tropes. Oh, LayR is evolved. What kind of things can you do with LayR? So you have to consider the whole audience, not just the hardcore players.
Okay, so that kind of nicely leads to my second question, which is you ended with the statement, you're building audience, you're building culture, you're building understanding. So what I was wondering is, does audience, are you banking on audience coming from building culture and understanding? Or is it sort of 3 different processes?
Well, the reason I did it in specifically that order is because, you know, ultimately one day, once ARGs are established, a concept, an established medium, then, you know, we will, there will be the culture and the understanding, and we pull audience from that. But for now, we're basically, it's like planting a tree. Right now, the audience is the seed, we're planting it in. When the roots go out, the roots spread out into the ground, and the whole ecosystem is affected. You know, that's the culture, and then, you know, what develops from that culture is the understanding.
Did you ever find out who Reality Ends was? Like, it seems like a cool mystery of who he actually was.
Yes, we do know who Reality Ends is. And what the Puppet Masters are talking about, that's going to be our sequel.
I love that the wall will fall, mostly because I think it knows its core audience so very well, and that is the people who are, you know, highly literate and are interested in story deconstruction and contributing to the conversations at TV Tropes. So in that respect, I think you guys really nailed, you know, the people that you really wanted to engage. But I wondered how far, or if it ever extended, you know, the allure of the game extended beyond the fishbowl of TV Tropes and the engaged audience there. Were you able to successfully get folks who weren't just engaged on the site already?
Yes, actually, I was pleasantly surprised by how many, even of the dedicated players, because I'd actually been regularly contributing on TV Tropes since way too long ago. I remember when it looked like it was our logo was Comic Sans. That's how bad it was. You know, I remember I saw these people and I'm like, who are you people? I've never seen you before in my life. Thank you for coming. There were people that, you know, I remember seeing, you know, all of a sudden started following on Twitter that, you know, we were like, oh, you're communicating with the Cheshire Cat. Yes, please come along. There's one player in particular who went by the screen name Eli Gone Crazy. And, you know, we first saw her when, you know, she was tweeting at the Cheshire Cat, and we looked at it as like, oh, you've participated in some other interactive fiction. You seem to follow along. Let's draw her in. Let's interact with her a bit more. And she joined the forums, and she ended up being a very prominent part of the team by the end. And it was rather gratifying that the people were, you know, it wasn't just the TV trope sphere that people were coming from. Plus, also, you know, I'd like to think that the TV trope sphere is getting bigger and bigger than it first looks. Because I've heard multiple people talk about, you know, the tropes of ARGs and transmedia here, and I was like, yeah, you know, a few years ago we weren't using the word trope that way. So, you know, even if you're not necessarily thinking, oh, I'm a regular on TV tropes and whatnot, it is starting to permeate the unconscious.
So, sort of going back to the idea of video games that you were talking about at the beginning, I know that it's a kind of design ethos at Valve that, you know, 60 to 80% of the game is